Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is 9 o'clock on Friday, and you are watching me, Deb Burton, Executive Director of RI Elder Info. And every Friday, I bring you information and resources that you or someone you know needs to know about. So please make sure you hit the like button, the share button, the bells, the whistles, the follows, the subscribes, all those things that say, hey, check this out. Today, we are having an amazing conversation with Michelle Miller from the Brain Injury Association of Rhode Island. A brain injury is something that can happen to you at any age. It can be, well, I'll let her tell you what the causes can be. Now, as you all know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we could not do this without the support of our sponsors and our donors. Thank you to United Healthcare and CareForth and all of our individual donors. Welcome, Michelle.
It's nice to be here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you. So please, for everybody, can you please tell us, what is the Brain Injury Association?
Yes, sure. The Brain Injury Association of Rhode Island is an affiliate of the Brain Injury Association of America. They're all over the country, different state chapters. So what we do is we provide resources, information for brain injury survivors and families, and also to prevent brain injury. So raise awareness of the causes and some of the, the more serious and also the less serious, because it can be cause a disability for life, even if it's not as serious an injury.
Now, when you say more or less serious, what are some of the causes of a brain injury, and maybe what constitutes a brain injury?
Yeah, so a brain injury is, any force that's, that the brain sustains. So, you can think of car crashes or falls. Falls are the leading cause of brain injury, especially among elderly. So that's the highest risk age group for deaths as well. But there can be concussions, and as you know, concussions can be mild or severe. Accidents, any kind of impact accidents, like in cars, and falls, and then domestic violence, any kind of personal attack that would then lead to some kind of high impact on the brain. So there is a range not only of how you can sustain a brain injury, but also the seriousness level. And about 80% are not seriously debilitating, but there are those 20% that are. And as I said, though, even though the 80% may not be kind of classified as serious, they can affect your cognitive or your neurological symptoms for life.
And so I'm thinking about falls, like where you have like a serious whack to the head and like a big egg, or when your skull is fractured. But what about even like concussions, like when the kids fall off the bikes, or the football players, or some of the hard hits in field hockey?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a really big age. So the highest risk age group for emergency room visits is 25 to 34.
Okay.
A lot of that is either, unfortunately, through car accidents or concussion. The highest risk age group for deaths is 75 plus, and a lot of that is falls. So, that's kind of interesting to look at those different risk categories. But yeah, you're absolutely right on concussions, and many athletes, as we know, sustain multiple concussions. One of the programs that we're working on is concussion prevention, with a sponsor through Navigant Credit Union is sponsoring that program. So we go to the schools and make impact tests available at no cost. And then we do some presentations. We also sometimes partner with Rhode Island Department of Education on concussion awareness and prevention.
That's huge, because, many of us have grandkids, and, when back in my day, I didn't wear helmets when I ride the bike, and now
Right.
it is the norm to wear helmets. And
Yeah.
it's actually pretty cool. If I'm out with the kids, like they'll remind me like, Graham, you got to wear your helmet. And I'm like, oh yeah, I do. You're right. Yes. And
There's,
it's kind of a societal change.
yes, definitely. And I think there's much more awareness among, like you said, the bike riders or even on their scooters. Kids are wearing helmets now. We'd like to see that kind of same kind of prevention, kind of interventions, when we work with seniors, even having the right, you can imagine in your home, like non-slip surfaces or, kind of, I mean, some of the obvious things like grab bars and things like that. But we will often do home visits and assess what we could advise in a home to lower the risk of falls.
Wow, I did not know you offered that service. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So what other services can the Brain Injury Association offer to our older adults and their family?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think it's important to note that we have some funding and work closely with the Office of Healthy Aging in the state of Rhode Island. So they're a great resource. They're always bringing us more information. But essentially, we run support groups for survivors and caregivers. We also do home visits, like I was just mentioning, that are more individually tailored, so to go see the home and de-risk or decrease the risk of a fall, and other safety elements. But, the idea of community is really important. So our support groups that we run regularly across the state, we have one here in the office. We partner with Charles Place in Providence and run that support group at Charles Place. At Clinica Esperanza, we partner also with OSIL, Ocean State Center for Independent Living, and we run a support group there. But, we're always open to, if people call and want to come by, they can come by individually. But
And where is your office?
it's in East Providence, on Waterman Ave. And
So Waterman Avenue, that's the one by Rhode Island Directions where the East Providence Police Station is. If I'm going towards Seekonk, it's on the police station's on the left and your office is in the right.
that's correct. Yes.
Okay. Street
Yeah.
parking in front of the building. Easy access with a wheelchair, just
Yeah.
in case.
Yeah. Very easy access. And we do have a resource center here that, has a lot of information on some of the things we just discussed, like, making tailoring your home to a more safe environment, or other groups that provide rehab or therapy. So we have a resource center here. But like I was saying earlier, we are trying to do more out in the community, wellness and community events, whether that's around walking or meditation or restorative yoga, or just like kind of like coffee get-togethers, sit and chat. And, it can have the elements of support, but in a more kind of casual wellness environment.
Yep. Now, what are some of the indicators that someone may have a brain injury?
Well, there's a range. So there can be cognitive, neurological. So it might be slurred speech or imbalance or blurry eyesight or memory, lapses of memory. And some of that can look like other things. It's interesting. We just did a training with law enforcement in Cranston. They could stop someone with a brain injury that might look like they've been drinking, for example, because some of those symptoms overlap. So kind of knowing the right questions to ask it for a first responder can be important. But there's a whole range of symptoms and behaviors that can change. Some of them can be very apparent and some of them can be more subtle. Our survivors talk about that all the time. And some of them carry around cards that say, I'm a brain injury survivor and these are my symptoms, so that people can have more understanding if they run into a difficult communication situation.
Yeah, and I could see where if you've had a brain injury, if communication is impaired and you're in a high stress environment, maybe the police, identified that maybe you rolled through a stop sign, or maybe you have a headlight out, or something not major, like you didn't rob a bank,
Right.
I could see where that additional communication may be more challenging.
Yeah. And
Having
then
that card could be really important.
for sure. And then we try to, reach some of those, first responders and others that have those interactions. So they have it went really well, our first law enforcement training. We say it doesn't excuse, if someone went through a red light or if they did something wrong, but maybe there was a reason, and you can talk to them about their symptoms and have a little more understanding or empathy. But, and to that point, many brain injury survivors are cleared to drive and others are not, if their symptoms or the impact is too severe and it's not safe. Yeah.
Right.
So, but if they're cleared to drive, they're cleared to drive. So, it might just be when you're communicating with them, it's hard to understand, but.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's like many different medical events. If the doctor says that you're okay, then you're okay. It doesn't mean that you might not have some lingering side effects to any medical event, but
Right.
once you're cleared to drive, then you can't blame bad driving on your medical event.
That's right.
You're driving poorly, and the police will be happy to tell you.
That's exactly what. Yes, exactly.
It doesn't give you a pass to do 90 on 95.
That's right. Right.
Exactly. Oh, so you guys can actually go out to the house. Now, if people had questions, concerns, how would the best way for them to reach out to you, to get a hold of you, to learn,
Yeah.
when do the support groups meet? Are they meeting in person? Are they meeting on Zoom? Because I
Right.
think sometimes getting that connection with people who are going through the same thing as you
Yeah.
is so important.
So important. So we do have all of our support groups listed on our website.
Okay.
We try to, we're trying to add more. To be honest, we'd like to add more so that we reach more parts of the state. That wherever you are, it would be easy for you to get to one. Right now, we're not doing any virtually. We were during the pandemic, and we may, pandemic or not, sometimes that's the most convenient for people. So we are looking at possibly reintroducing a virtual. But right now we have them. They're all on our website. And the best way to reach us really is to call and talk to one of our resource facilitators. We have 2 resource facilitators who can really address any questions that any survivors or caregivers have.
Excellent. Is that the 228-3319 number?
Yes. Yeah.
That is awesome. So 401-228-3319. They can call, they can speak to a real human being.
Yep.
And have their questions answered. And are you able to help people like navigate the systems,
Yes.
health, social services? Good.
Big part of what our resource facilitators do. So that might be, Social Security, disability insurance, Medicaid, finding out how those things work. Return to work. Maybe you've been cleared to work, but with some limitations. Return to learn, which is the concussion program. So parents might have questions about that. So navigating those systems is a big part of what we do.
So it sounds like you guys are just doing a tremendous amount of work for many people who are experiencing a brain injury, whether traumatic or organic. Are you guys a nonprofit?
Yes, we are a nonprofit. We do work with some of the state agencies like the Department of Health, Office of Healthy Aging, I mentioned. But we have state support and private support, and then our members are community members.
Wonderful. And if anybody watching would like to support the work you're doing, can they donate? Do you need volunteers? What works?
Both are great. And we have those on our website, those opportunities. If you want, you can go to biari.org and there's a donation button there. There's also our support groups are listed, and then other ways to get involved. Being volunteers is always great. We have events and we love having volunteers at events. So anything that contributes to the mission is really valuable.
This is awesome. With everything you're doing, Michelle, I'm so glad you were able to take the time to meet with me today and share this information on Friday Friends. This is This is awesome. You're doing a lot of stuff and it's much needed. I think
Thank you
it's
so
one of those
much.
things people we need to raise awareness of. So I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time too.
Absolutely. Thank you. Everybody, brain injury is something that can happen to us at any age. It could be the little one who falls and hits their head as they're learning to walk. It can be the rambunctious middle schooler who falls out of a tree or, is learning to jump on dirt bikes. It could be the car accident, a slip and fall. Maybe you were trying to prune the bushes now that it's springtime and you have that accident. It can also be the stroke, things like that. And the Brain Injury Association is an amazing resource to help you get connected to what is available to you, help you navigate those systems. So I encourage you to reach out to them anytime. They're right in East Providence, easy to get to, accessible if you have a mobility impairment. Happy to take your calls as well as go on their website. So it's one of those great little hidden treasures that we want to make sure is uncovered. So I am glad that you are all able to join me today. I look forward to seeing you next week. In the meantime, be well and be kind.